The Dragon King beneath the sea is dying, and there is only one cure: the liver of a rabbit. Now the court faces a single question: who will leave the sea, cross into the mountains, and bring back a rabbit alive? From morning until midday, the questioning and answering continued endlessly, without reaching any conclusion. At last, one minister stepped forward and spoke.
Loyalty is the highest virtue in the old codes of duty. Long ago, 2 loyal men were cast out in disgrace and driven to their deaths in the rivers. My ancestors lived by those waters, and it is said that their spirit of loyalty passed down through our line. Because of that, I too was born with loyalty in my heart. If offering my own liver could save your majesty, I would do so without hesitation. But since it must be a rabbit's liver, I will do whatever it takes to obtain one.
Not only the Dragon King, but all the ministers were astonished. Looking closely, they realized it was the palace official, the turtle, whom they had always looked down upon. The Dragon King, still doubtful, questioned him carefully.
To capture a rabbit, one must travel tens of thousands of li from the underwater world to the mountains on land. In those mountains live hundreds of kinds of furred beasts. How would you recognize a rabbit among them? And even if by fortune you were to encounter one, how would you bring it here? To accomplish such a task, one would need the brilliance of a legendary strategist, the speed of the wind, a tongue sharp enough to turn disaster into advantage, and a strength fit for a giant. And yet, looking at you, how could you possibly manage such a task? You would be far better suited as an ingredient for turtle soup to accompany wine.
Loyalty, wisdom, and eloquence reside within the heart and cannot be judged by outward appearance alone. Yet even by appearance, I lack nothing. I can withdraw and extend my neck at will, as though transforming my very form. Within this pointed head is filled with wisdom, and even if it costs me my life, I will surely bring here a rabbit. Therefore, please have its form drawn in detail.
Hearing the turtle's reply, the Dragon King was impressed and praised him.
There is no subject as loyal as you.
At once, he summoned the mermaid painter and ordered her to draw a rabbit. But as a painter of the underwater world, she had never seen a rabbit, nor even an image of one. As all the ministers grew anxious and uncertain, the abalone stepped forward. In a previous life, I was a pheasant and lived in the mountains. While fleeing hunters, the easiest prey alongside me was always the rabbit. We fled together and helped one another, and even now the image of the rabbit lingers before my eyes, painted as I describe. And so, the abalone instructed, and the mermaid painted. She drew eyes that gaze at moonlight shining over the mountains, ears pricked up to hear birdsong, a nose that takes in the scent of spring blossoms, a mouth that gathers chestnuts and acorns, legs that leap swiftly to escape hunting dogs, and soft fur used for making brushes. With ears upright, eyes bright and alert, a slender waist and a short tail, the image was unmistakably that of a rabbit. The turtle took the painting, placed it within his neck, and withdrew it so completely that it could not be seen. Having secured the painting carefully, the turtle bade farewell to the Dragon King. The Dragon King spoke again.
In ancient times, a ruler once sent his subject in search of the elixir of immortality. Once he departed, he never returned. How pitiful that is. There is no subject as loyal as you. Go swiftly to the human world and bring a rabbit here. If my illness is cured, I shall reward you with land to be passed down through your descendants for generations.
The turtle took his leave and returned home to get ready for his journey. By then, his relatives had already heard the news and gathered to see him off. His mother spoke with concern.
Your father, greedy for food, once bit a fishing hook and died at a young age. And now you, too, set out to seek medicine to cure the king's illness. Devote yourself fully to the task, but if you fail to obtain it, do not even think of returning. Rather, die there and let your bones rest in that place.
I will devote myself with all sincerity to finding the medicine, cure the king's illness, and put your mind at ease. Please do not worry.
Then his wife spoke her farewell.
A husband and wife are not meant to be apart even for a moment. Yet loyalty to one's ruler is greater than the bond between husband and wife. Even if you should die in service to the king, I will bear no regret. I will care well for your aged mother and raise our young children properly, so do not worry about the household. Simply bring the rabbit here and cure the king's illness.
Truly, you are the wife of a loyal subject. I will do as you say. Please take good care of mother, and do not let the children wander far.
After bidding farewell to his wife, his relatives came one by one to offer their parting words. Cousins, uncles, in-laws, even a snail from the land. At last, the turtle set out toward the land. He cut through the blue waves and swam diligently until he reached the shore. Searching for the place where rabbits dwell, he wandered from mountain to mountain. Each peak held legends, and every valley bore traces of stories long past. After roaming across countless mountains, he finally arrived at one place. The sun was setting, and mist began to spread through the valley, covering the mountains. All around was silent, without a single sign of life. He hid himself among the rocks, dozed briefly, then continued on his journey. Walking through the night, he reached a peak where the morning sun shone, and the sound of a waterfall roared loudly. As he sat down to rest, a creature passed by, its body drenched in morning dew, droplets falling from its entire form. Seeing the turtle, it greeted him first.
"Where do you come from?"
Looking closely, the turtle saw that the creature looked remarkably like himself.
Wherever I go, I am but a wanderer, with no fixed home. But who might you be?
Our ancestors once served as officials in the underwater palace of the southern seas. But my grandfather, being upright in character, spoke honestly to the king and was slandered by lesser men, and thus exiled to the human world. Since then, he never returned to his homeland, living instead in the mountains, reciting poetry among the rocks. People who saw him praised him as a model of an upright man who was punished for speaking honestly, and they gave him an honorific title. His integrity and righteousness were beyond reproach. His wife waited endlessly for his return, and in time, she too came to live on land. From then on, our family settled here, bearing children and continuing our line. Since we inherited that title through generations, fathers and sons alike have been called by it. And so it continues even to the great-grandchildren.
Hearing this, the turtle realized that the creature belonged to the same lineage as himself.
Truly, the affairs of the world are beyond comprehension. In the time of our ancestors, there was once a tale that 6 brothers of our lineage, divided into different branches and dwelling in the waters, joined their strength to uphold the sacred mountains. I had believed that their line had ended without descendants. Yet hearing your words, it seems that you are indeed of that lineage.
We were born of the same ancestor, yet scattered across water and land, only now to meet. How could I not rejoice? But for what reason have you, with such a noble presence, come so far?
A great calamity has befallen our underwater palace. There is no one there skilled in choosing a proper dwelling place. And so, having heard that rabbits who live in the mountains possess keen sight, I have come to invite one to our palace. Yet I do not know what a rabbit looks like. For months I have wandered from mountain to mountain, but I have not yet encountered one.
When important matters arise in the mountains, all the furred beasts gather to discuss them. Recently, word came from a squirrel that on the 15th day of this month, there will be a gathering at Mount Nangar. Stay at my home, and on that day come with me. You will surely see a rabbit there.
This was most welcome news. Overjoyed, the turtle followed the mountain turtle to his home. At last, the day of the gathering arrived. The turtle, together with the mountain turtle, went to the gathering place. Countless animals gathered, each displaying its splendid coat. Keeling elephants, lions, bears, monkeys, tigers, deer, roe deer, rabbits, lynxes, foxes, mice, squirrels, raccoon dogs, wild boars, badgers, weasels, eagles, toads. Indeed, it seemed that every creature of the mountains had assembled. Once all had gathered, they began to arrange their seating. Each insisted on yielding the highest place to another, and for a time the place was filled with lively commotion. When all urged the Qilin to take the highest seat, it declined. The Qilin, a mythical creature of Chinese legend, is said to appear only when a virtuous ruler ascends the throne or when a great person is born.
I am not a creature of this world. Hearing that a noble ruler has newly ascended in the land of the Eastern sages, I merely stopped here on my journey. How could a traveler take the highest seat?
As the Qilin refused to the very end, a separate place was arranged for it to the side. At the center sat the tiger, the ruler of the mountains, and beside him were seated the deer, the roe deer, the rabbit, the fox, the lynx, and others in orderly rows. After the commotion subsided and the seats were settled, the tiger spoke of the purpose of the gathering.
The reason we have gathered today is to discuss the danger that has befallen us. Humans grow more frightening with each passing day, devising countless schemes to hunt and devour us. The forests are diminishing, leaving us with fewer places to hide. At this rate, our kind may vanish entirely. How pitiable our fate has become. Let us put our heads together and seek a solution.
The raccoon dog stepped forward and said,
"The most detestable among them are the hunting dogs. They are creatures just like us, covered in fur and walking on four legs, yet they cling to humans and take the lead in killing their own kind. When hunters enter the mountains, we flee with all our strength and barely manage to hide deep within burrows, only for those dogs to chase us down and bark relentlessly. Despite all their effort, the prey they catch belongs to the hunter, and they themselves gain not even a morsel of meat, yet for no reason at all they slaughter their own kind. From now on, we should capture and devour all hunting dogs."
Your words are true. Their actions are indeed detestable, but they accompany the finest hunters. If we act rashly, we will be struck down by bullets. No matter how resentful we may feel, we cannot simply devour them all.
After various discussions, the fox quietly stepped forward and had the squirrel's stores of acorns and chestnuts brought forth, and even demanded that the wild boar's large offspring be offered as food for the tiger. The wild boar was filled with anger, yet had no choice. Seeing this, the righteous bear could remain silent no longer and spoke.
We gathered here today to find a way to escape danger. Yet now the poor mouse and squirrel have lost the food they stored for winter, and the helpless wild boar must sit and watch its child be devoured. If we remain any longer, who knows what further misfortune may befall us. Let us end this here and return.
The tiger, embarrassed, had nothing to say. Muttering vaguely, he brought the meeting to a close, but the fox, angered by the bear's words, harbored resentment in his heart.
"That foolish bear! I will deal with him one day."
The animals of the mountains dispersed, each returning home without having achieved anything of value. The turtle, who had remained quietly beside the Namzayang throughout the gathering, observing and listening to all that took place, now rose. As the meeting ended, he followed closely behind a rabbit who was making its way back. When they reached a quiet place where no one else was around, he softly called out to the rabbit,
Good sir, Master Rabbit.
"What did you think when you read the scene where the turtle introduces himself before the Dragon King?" The turtle says, "It was said that the spirit of loyalty entered our line through my ancestors, and because of that, I too was born with loyalty already in me." To modern eyes, it sounds like absurd sophistry, but to audiences in Joseon, this scene was not mere nonsense. It was a savage joke aimed at the bloodline-centered ideology that dominated society at the time. To understand the structure of that joke, it helps to know something about the status system of the period. As one example, let us think about Ilcheon Jokcheon, one of the systems by which the Nobi class was reproduced. Ilcheon Jokcheon was a terrifying law under which a child became a slave if even one parent was a slave. From the late Goryeo period through the era of Mongol interference, the population declined and labor became desperately needed. For the ruling class, slaves were assets. That is why this mechanism, which increased the number of slaves as quickly as possible, was preserved into the early Joseon period. The turtle's logic is an extreme extension of this bloodline determinism. Even if our blood was never mixed, so my very root is loyal. This claim acts as a mirror held up to Joseon ideology, mocking its obsession with lineage and blood. But by the late Joseon period, when the tale of the rabbit was widely enjoyed, this once solid logic of bloodline was beginning to crack under the pressure of cost-benefit calculation. That turning point was the implementation of the Nobi Jongmo Beop, the law that made a child follow the status of the mother. The more slaves there were, the fewer commoners there were to pay taxes. There were also fewer people available for military service, which weakened national defense. Slaves did not pay taxes. For the sake of governing the state, King Yongjo pushed through a law declaring that if the mother was a commoner, the child would also be a commoner. Here a paradox emerges. This was an age in which yesterday's slave could become today's commoner, and purchased genealogies called Gongmyeongcheop were everywhere. Audiences had already experienced for themselves that bloodline was something mutable, something that could be changed at any time by the needs of the state or by money. Against that historical background, how would the turtle's desperate flattery have looked? The world was already being reorganized according to cost-benefit calculation and practical ability, yet the turtle was still enthusiastically imitating the logic of the old order, saying in effect, "My ancestors are such and such, and therefore I am this kind of being." To the audience, he must have looked like stupidity in its purest form. The turtle tries to show loyalty by perfectly internalizing the logic of the system, but the audience already knows that the system itself is a fiction, and so this becomes a moment that gives them a sense of intellectual superiority as they laugh at him. That audience is an essential element of pansori. It is not simply that the singer performs and the audience shouts interjections like "Iolsaigu" or "Good." The singer reads the audience's reactions and adjusts the speed and depth of the story in real time. The fact that the original text inserts explanations such as Zhuge Liang was the legendary military strategist of Shu during China's Three Kingdoms period, and he is used as a symbol of exceptional wisdom and strategy, is evidence of that. The laughter that burst out in the turtle scene too could only fully resonate on the basis of a shared historical sensibility among the people gathered there that day, namely the felt unreality of bloodline logic. Now let us think about the next episode, the scene in which they somehow produce a perfectly accurate picture of a rabbit they have never seen. The turtle has decided to obtain the rabbit's liver, so he must go look for a rabbit. But there is a problem. No one in the underwater palace has ever seen a rabbit. An abalone offers information by appealing to an entirely groundless theory of reincarnation, saying, "In my previous life, I was a pheasant." He then passes along what he claims to remember to a mermaid who is a painter. The mermaid, having understood the result of that language as best she can, forms an image or concept of it in her mind and transfers it into a painting. Strangely enough, the rabbit in the picture is exactly what a real rabbit looks like. This process is, so to speak, a total mess. There are far too many points at which error might arise. First, the claim, "I was a pheasant in a previous life," is not the kind of experience universally shared by all subjects of perception. So, regardless of what result it may eventually produce, it functions first as an assumption that everyone agrees not to question. Next, the abalone passes his inner image onto the mermaid. The possible error here is that even if he really had seen a rabbit because he truly was a pheasant in a past life, he might still have described it poorly and conveyed it incorrectly. And even if everything had worked properly up to that point, the mermaid might have lacked the interpretive ability to reconstruct in language the representation that existed in the abalone's mind, and so might have misunderstood him. Even if, by some very small chance, she understood the abalone's language correctly, her painting skills might still have been so poor that what emerged was something not at all rabbit-like. And yet after all those assumptions piled on top of assumptions piled on top of assumptions, what comes out in the end is somehow a real rabbit picture. When we think about something, we can divide our thinking into function and principle. From the perspective of principle, attention is focused on correct reasoning and legitimacy. Truth ought to be derived through a transparent and proper process. Seen from that perspective, the abalone's claim about having been a pheasant in a past life is suspicious information, lacking evidence, and impossible to verify. From that point of view, the picture ought to be a fundamentally defective result from the very start. But the work brazenly presents us with an accurate picture of a rabbit. For some people, what matters is whether it actually works. It is not their main concern whether the abalone really was a pheasant or whether the mermaid understood him properly. In the end, if the turtle takes that picture up onto land and the real rabbit and the picture match, then that entire ridiculous process is justified as a successful black box. Interestingly enough, the figures in this underwater palace have never seen a rabbit, even once. Since not a single one of them has actually seen a rabbit, there is no one who can judge whether the picture is correct or incorrect. Everyone is simply believing what they want to believe. What gives this scene its flavor is the irony layered on top of that ridiculous collective certainty. The picture really does turn out to be right. At this point, I would like to introduce a passage that sharply reveals the thought of Park Ji-won, one of the important Silhak thinkers of Joseon. When heaven created human beings, it made them into 4 kinds, and among them, the Seonbi is the most noble. The Seonbi is also called a Yangban, and there is nothing more profitable than that. He does not farm, does not trade, and if he merely skims through a few books, at best he passes the higher civil service examination, and at worst, he is guaranteed at least the rank of Jinsa. First he drags over the neighbor's cow and makes it plow his field. Then he drags over the villagers and makes them weed it. Who would dare look down on me? And if anyone should do so, even if I were to pour lye into his nose, seize him by his top knot, swing him around and slap his face, he would not dare resent me. From Park Ji-won, Yangbanjeon. This ferocious satire of Park Ji-won shares much with the episodes in The Tale of the Rabbit. In truth, the original purpose of Neo-Confucianism was not bad at all. It was meant to build an elaborate system through which one could achieve moral completion by cultivating oneself and then govern the world peacefully on the basis of that moral character. To value orthodoxy and correct principle was a powerful tool for maintaining social order. But over time, this system was corrupted. As with the Yangban Park Ji-won describes, all that remained was the representational shell of the scholar, while the substance disappeared, leaving only strained logic and violence for the sake of preserving privilege. The attitude that says, because I am a Yangban, my word is law, calls to mind the abalone's logic when he says, because I was a pheasant in a past life, my memory is therefore the rabbit. In a situation where Neo-Confucianism had collapsed into suffocating verbal wrangling and empty argument, Silhak emerged with tremendous momentum. Silhak thinkers say this: no matter how noble the process pretends to be, what use is it if it starves the people and sickens the country? This scene from The Tale of the Rabbit shows exactly that point through satire and humor in a way that even people without extensive formal education could grasp. The abalone's information is absurd, and the mermaid's understanding is doubtful, but the rabbit picture they produce nonetheless becomes the only practical tool capable of curing the king's illness. In the end, this picture mocks the old logic of an earlier age, the logic that clung to stale pretense and poured lie into people's noses, and shows how true knowledge is that which helps the world, even if its origin is lowly. English-speaking viewers may have found the scene where the turtle meets the pond turtle somewhat contrived, but Korea has a distinctive way of confirming identity. Koreans do not simply ask for a surname when they first meet. They ask, "Which Kim clan are you from?" referring to one's Bongwan, or "Which branch and which generation of the lineage are you from?" Bloodline in Korea is a vast network that begins with an ancestral founder from hundreds of years ago and spreads across the country. People may forget about this network in everyday life, but the moment they confirm that they share the same root in a strange place, a powerful feeling of we-ness can suddenly erupt. In the past, a family that lost out in a power struggle might be sent into exile, or one branch might settle elsewhere when life grew difficult. Even so, when they meet again, they still know enough to identify the place from which that branch came, the address, so to speak, by which they can confirm it. The work places these two scenes side by side in a very clever way. In one, bloodline is used instrumentally, as in, "My ancestors were the loyal ministers, and therefore I too am loyal." In the other, that very same bloodline causes someone to open his heart and offer help to a total stranger. The work places the two together and leaves the judgment to the audience. The work seems to show, through the gathering of the animals in the mountain, how a failing system actually operates. The purpose of the gathering is to solve a crisis, but what actually happens is that they decide who should sit in the highest seat, confirm who possesses how much dignity and face, and identify the internal victims whose resources can be taken away. The tiger, who bears the responsibility of protecting the members of the group, outwardly adopts a fair and principled stance, but in the face of the new violence represented by human beings and firearms, he cannot produce any real solution. The work reveals how ridiculous authority becomes once it has lost all practical effectiveness. The passage in which the raccoon dog condemns the hunting dogs is also interesting. The hunting dogs have the same outward form as beasts, yet they have been incorporated into the order of human beings and now pursue their own kind. And yet the animals fear the hunters themselves, while pouring out their anger only on the hunters' tools, the dogs. This shows the tragedy of people at the bottom coming to hate one another because they cannot solve the real problem. The fox who appears here is, so to speak, a false pragmatist. He steps forward as though he is going to solve the crisis, but what his action actually amounts to is nothing more than squeezing the blood out of the weak in order to fill the belly of the strong. It is not pragmatism at all, but brutal extraction carried out in the name of solving a shared crisis. The bear alone speaks to the heart of the matter, but he changes nothing, and instead only earns the fox's resentment. Saying what is right in a public forum and actually moving the order of things are completely different matters. The bear is a being with morality but without strategy. What the turtle does in this exhibition of collective incompetence is, on the contrary, rather clever. He lies flat, says nothing, and watches how the system actually works. Then, when he approaches the rabbit, he does not address him as he really is, but first wraps him in the kind of social representation he would like to hear. Was the turtle's strategy the right one? How will the rabbit respond in the next part?